What's going on, everyone? So we all know by now, LOLMINER did drop that update 1.47. It does indicate you should probably use drivers 470 103.01 or 510 60.02. I did test out both drivers in multiple live streams. I got all the numbers set together in an Excel spreadsheet. So we're going to go through them and see, did this actually improve performance, and what settings should you use on 3060 GPUs? Here we are at my Excel spreadsheet. We're going to start off with LOLMINER 1.47, driver 470.103.01. We have various settings, thanks to everybody in the live chat at the time of the stream when we did this, but let's run through them right now and see just how well this did unlock this GPU. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and bell notification to be notified for future videos. So first setting, we did use 1200 on the core, 2000 memory. We have a locked power limit here, which means your absolute core clock in hiveos, anything over 500 is an absolute core clock. And our hash rate was 32.92. As you can see, it is in red, so that was the lowest hash rate of all our settings. But our wall power was only 100 watts at the wall. I didn't record the software numbers here. I think it was saying something like 89 to 94 or something in there. But that gives us a hash to watt ratio of 0.329. Next setting, we have 1200, 27 on the memory, locked core clock again because of that absolute core. 33.13 mega hash on the hash rate, no software power on this setting here. Wall power was 101 watts, and that gives us a hash to watt ratio of 0.328. Next setting here is 1350 on the core, 2700 on the memory, locked core clock. Hash rate is 37.17. 108 watts at the wall, and that was a hash to watt ratio of 0.334. You can see that line is in green. That is the best setting that I came in terms of efficiency. That's the best one I would recommend to use, especially if you have expensive power or something. If you have solar or you very cheap power, it's not really an issue. Next setting here, we have 1470 on the core, 2600 on the memory, locked core clock. 37.65 mega hash for our hash rate, 117 watts at the wall. Hash to watt ratio is 0.321. And next up here is our pretty much the go-to that everyone seems to be using and talking about because it gives the highest hash rate. 1552 for the core clock, 2800 on the memory, locked core clock, 38.64 hash rate. It does come to 122 watts at the wall for a hash to watt ratio of 0.316. Next setting we tried was 1590 on the core, 2600 on the memory, locked core clock, 38.27 for a hash rate there in mega hash, and 133 watts at the wall. This is in red, our lowest hash to watt ratio and absolute worst setting you want to use on this thing, 0.287 hash to watt ratio. And it is recommended by all the miners, whether it's Trex, LOLMINER, doesn't really matter, to always use an absolute core clock. But a setting did come in not using an absolute core clock, so we decided to try it. So minus 502 on the core, 2700 on the memory, power limit set because we don't have an absolute core clock here. It would just, hit its TDP if we weren't doing anything. So we set that down to 112 as recommended. And we did get a hash rate of 38.13. We got a wall power of 126 watts and a hash to watt ratio of 0.302. So we're done with driver 470.103.01. We're going to move over to driver 510.60.02. We're going through the exact same settings so we can get an accurate account to see which driver actually performs better. So 1200 on the core, 2000 on the memory. Obviously, we got a locked clock here. 33 mega hash for a hash rate. This time I did record software numbers. I do want to point out that I recorded the software numbers just to showcase that there's a lot of people out there that use software numbers and showing on how great their GPU or something is using. And even if it's NVIDIA, it's even bigger gaps on AMD, but software is never accurate. Never go by anybody that points out a number using the software power. Anyway, we got 92 watts here in the software. At the wall, we're utilizing 101 watts, and that is 0.326. So we can already see we have the green line going across here on this setting, where on the previous version, this was our lowest hash rate, and we didn't really want to use that. It didn't have the highest hash to watt ratio, but in this case, it looks like this is the best setting for this driver. Let's move on forward. We got 1200 on the core, this time 2700 on the memory, locked core clock, obviously. 33.26 mega hash, 93 watt software, 103 watts at the wall, hash to watt ratio 0.322. Now, I probably don't got to read this all out, but some people just like to listen to things, so I'm still going to do it. You can pause it, go through everything, shut it off, whatever. Maybe you'll miss something at the end, though. We'll find out. Let's move forward, though. 1350 on the core, 2700 on the memory, locked core clock, 36.18 mega hash, 95 watts in the software, 114 watts at the wall, 0.317 hash to watt ratio, 1470 core clock, 2600 on the memory, locked core clock. We have 37.69 mega hash here. 103 watts are at the wall, 118 watts. I'm sorry about that. Rewind. We have 103 watts in the software, 118 watts at the wall, 0.319 of a hash to watt ratio. Moving on to, there's the OG setting for the 3060s. We got 1552 absolute core clock, 2800 on the memory, 38.64. So again, this is our highest hash rate of them all. 115 watts in the software, 123 watts at the wall, for a hash to watt ratio of 0.314. Moving forward, 1590 on the core, 2600 on the memory, locked core clock, 38.23 mega hash is what we ended up as results. 116 watts in the software, 126.6 watts at the wall. This was 0.301 of a hash to watt ratio. And then going down, minus 502 on the core, 2700 on the memory, 112 watts. We did lock it again, just like we did with the other driver test here. 37.95 of a hash rate, 112 watts at the software, and 126 watts at the wall. Again, 0.301 of a hash to watt ratio. And you can see the last two settings in this driver were both the same in terms of efficiency, and they were the least, the ones you don't want to use. They're not the best. So now we're just going to kind of compare between the past two drivers. So just comparing between the two drivers here, it looks like on some settings, one driver wins, and on other settings, the other driver wins. But in terms of absolute efficiency, it does look like the 470.103.01 driver is the winner here with the 1350 2700 memory, 37.17 mega hash at 108 watts at the wall for 0.334 hash to watt ratio. Seems to be the best setting to use with this driver for, between the whole thing. Let's just do some changes here. So as for hash rate with our 12 and 2000, 32.92 versus 33. The 510 driver was a little bit better on there. Moving to the 2700 memory, same core clock, we got 33.26. It looked like it was slightly better on the lower core clock here as well. Let's move on to a little higher core clock, the 1350 and the 2700 memory. We did get 37.17 mega hash, where over here we're actually lost a little bit and we're only at 36.18. Now, there could be a margin of error. Maybe it could take an extra 10, 15 minutes and they'll even out. It's hard to say, but based on around the same amount of time, these are what the numbers are looking like. Now, on the 1470 2600 core, we got 37.65 mega hash, where over here we're sitting at 37.69. So here it was slightly higher, but overall you could call it the same. In terms of the 1552 and the 2800, they did hash the same, 38.64 on both ends using both drivers, but we did get a little more power draw pulling out on the newer driver than when we're using the older driver. It's only by 1 watt, but it does change that hash to watt ratio just a little bit, having that extra watt in there. And then, we got our 38.23 versus 38.27. Fairly close, 37.95, 38.13 on these two settings. Fairly close. So overall, the two drivers, they're really, really close. So depending how you want to run your card, right now I did revert back to 470 and I'm utilizing the 1350 2700 because I always go for the hash to watt ratio. This is the best for me. Now, if you're getting close to power limited, swapping all your GPUs, you could save up a couple hundred watts depending on the size of your rigs and how many you got just by moving a little bit more efficient. So I also wanted to compare this to Trex. So I threw in the current Trex just to see how well things were comparing. All right, so down here you can see Trex miner 0.25.9, and I was still on driver 5106001 during this time frame. I also wanted to try it out on a times 16 slot to see if there would be any difference. Again, I was still on driver 51060.02. I did a couple of these and they were exactly the same as being on a riser up here. So I didn't mark anything down. I was just going to delete this or whatever. So it, like the first two or three, they were exactly the same. So I just, ended the test there, said, all right, it's not doing any type of performance. We would have noticed a difference. But here's Trex miner. We're just going to run through it very, very fast. So obviously we got 29 mega hash versus 33 and 32. We got 29.7 versus 33. We got 35.69. Versus what we got up here, 37.69 and again 37.65, and then the OG one here, 36.66. It's still one even with this version. That setting is your highest hash rate setting no matter what you're using by the looks of things. So 36.66 versus 38.64 across the board there. And then obviously our hash rates are lower. It's straight up looks like we're not doing as great. The efficiencies here aren't quite as good as the very first driver, but we're still in the majority of the 0.3 plus type of hash to watt ratios. So overall, yes, LOLMINER is definitely better, but I think by the end of the week, we'll be seeing something coming out from Trex miner. One thing I also want to point out is, I don't know, it would take a lot longer to test, not just, the half an hour to 45 minutes per setting I did here, is I was noticing that Trex was sending a decent amount more shares than when I was testing LOLMINER. I was only seeing sometimes I wouldn't even see a share in 45 minutes. Other times I'd see maybe one or two. But every time I tested this here, I was seeing, 2 to 3 shares upon each setting. So, again, you could restart your rig 100 times and each time it could find a share right off the get-go. It could take 10 minutes. You never know. So until you actually test it, card per card, doing a head-to-head test on a pool for 24, maybe 48 hours to see what's sending more shares. That's the only way to truly tell. But I just wanted to point out that I was seeing more shares being sent on Trex miner. And, I just think overall in the end, once Trex miner drops a new update and implements whatever's going on here, we could see, Trex miner coming out on top. Also on top of that, LOLMINER's dev fee because of this did get moved up from 0.7 up to 1%. So because they're the first ones to do this, and I believe next week or whenever these guys drop it, they are going to be dropping their dev fee down again. It's just that, they're first, so they want to get paid for it is pretty much what's going on here. All right, guys, so I guess that sums up this video. This is my results testing out LOLMINER 1.47 on my 3060. I do have one more LHR card that I could use. That is an MSI 3060 Ti. So I'll break that out here. We can do it in some live streams or something. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys want to see this happen live? Just like what we did do with this previous 3060. We had a lot of fun doing it, using some voice stuff, joking around about whatever. It doesn't matter, but it was fun. So we can do that if you guys want to do it again. So just let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys on the next one. Rabid out. Thank you for watching my video. And if you haven't seen one of these, be sure to check them out. And if you already seen them, maybe you missed something, might have to watch it one more time. And if you just let it play in the background, that's all right as well. I do try to live stream every weekend as well as every couple days during the week. So be sure to be subscribed so you don't miss that. As always, have a great day.